Today's episode of the podcast is going to be a masterclass on continuous glucose monitors. Strap in. You are going to learn so much about these absolutely incredible, life-changing devices. I am super excited to welcome you back to the podcast. Welcome to the Unlock the Sugar Shackles podcast. I'm Danny, and I'm doing a solo episode, and I'd love to thank Veri for being the sponsor for today's episode. They sent me some glucose monitors, and I had such a fabulous time trying out these monitors, and I'm going to explain what's a little bit different about their device. The device isn't necessarily different, but they have a really cool app. So I'm going to explain everything about my experience, about the new tech that they have, but also let's just start with what the heck is a continuous glucose monitor and why should I want one? So continuous glucose monitors are these little devices that stick onto your arm. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I don't want a needle in me. It's not a needle in you. It's this like tiny little filament. You do not feel it. It feels like a Band-Aid and it doesn't hurt when you apply it. And this device is so cool because it monitors your blood sugar or your glucose levels in real time. And so the benefit to this is that there's other types of glucose monitoring. So many of you have gone to your doctor and you've gotten a fasting glucose level. Well, that's one point in time. So I equate that to, let's say I said, "Hey, come see this movie with me. It's so good." And instead of going to the movie, I just gave you a photograph of it. Well, that tells you a little bit about it, but it is missing the picture because our blood sugar fluctuates at all times of the day and night. It is never a straight line and it's never static. It's always changing. So if your blood sugar was not changing at all, you'd be dead. So that's why on our continuous glucose monitors, we don't want to have a flat line. So when it comes to glucose monitoring, there's the doctor that can give you your fasting glucose. You can also get another number from your doctor called your A1C. Maybe you've heard of this. And that's an average of your blood sugar over the past 3 months. So that is good information to know. But what do we know about averages? If I have a lot of high blood sugar, if I have a lot of crashes, well, my A1C is probably going to look pretty dang perfect because it might be smack in the middle of those. So even though that gives us a little more information than just the fasting glucose, it's still leaving so much space for what the heck is happening with our glucose. So I see a lot of people going to their doctor and they're like, "Oh, my fasting glucose was maybe a little bit elevated and my A1C was pretty good, but I don't feel well. I have low energy. I feel like I'm crashing in the day. I feel like I'm always wanting food. I need snacks. I don't sleep well. My hormones are a mess. I'm craving sugar and carbs all day. I'm craving salt. I'm just not feeling my best." And the numbers that we get from our doctor are just not cutting it. So continuous glucose monitors, or CGMs for short, they let us know what is happening at every second of the day and night without constantly having to prick our fingers and feel like a human pincushion. So with one actual painless application, it doesn't feel like it's going to be. And I've had so many people put it on and they go, "Oh, that didn't hurt." I'm like, yeah, it doesn't hurt. People have so much anxiety about putting this thing on. And I swear it doesn't hurt. It's just so unbelievable that it doesn't hurt and it doesn't hurt on you. I want to give you a little tip. Don't put it on the side of your arm, put it on the bottom of your arm. So if you're watching this on video, you're going to see that I'm lifting my arm. But if you're just listening on audio, I'm lifting my arm so that it's at a 90-degree angle. And then the tricep that's going to be on the bottom, that's where you want to put the CGM, because then when you put your arm down, that tricep is on the back of your arm. The reason the location is very important is because if you put it on the side, I have walked into so many door frames and hit off so many CGMs. You would think I know where my body is, but I've done that. And then also, ladies, if you're taking off a bra or if you're taking off a tank top or if you're sliding grocery bags down your arm, these are all things from my personal experience that I have done that I've knocked off CGMs. So making sure you're putting it on the back of your arm, it stays on for about 14 days, depending on the device. And you don't have to think about it. You can shower with it, you can get it wet, you can work out with it, you can sleep with it. You don't take it off. Once you take it off, it's done. It never works again. So you only get that one time to put it in. And then, like I said, it lasts for 14 days. So you don't need to be thinking about it. So you're getting 2 full weeks with just one monitor of nonstop glucose data. So who is this helpful for? Well, continuous glucose monitoring is literally for everybody. It's not just for people with type 2 diabetes, as our doctors might say. It's for people who, it's literally for everybody, because 93% of our population has metabolic dysfunction. This means they're having blood sugar issues. But if 93% of our population have these issues, our doctors are not doing a good job at picking up this information, you guys. So not only is it helpful for reversing disease, because then you're able to kind of take control, and we're going to talk about this more, but it's also helpful for prevention. So that 7% of you guys who are hanging on with really optimal blood sugar, wouldn't it be nice to not have to go into that 93% and start struggling with your blood sugar and then have to reverse something? So it's really helpful for preventing these issues and for helping us to reverse them. So I have had some incredible stories of clients that I've worked with who have gotten such amazing feedback from the CGM. Not only have they reported that it's help them just monumentally be able to heal faster and just understand what's going on. But sometimes we find out some really surprising stuff when clients put on CGM. So one of the stories that is just the most impactful that stands out in my mind is that I had a client who came to me and she said, I've been hypoglycemic since high school. And so my blood sugar has been crashing since high school, and she's now retired. So many decades have gone by, and she has struggled with hypoglycemia that entire time. Okay. So we put on a continuous glucose monitor. And what would you think that we expected to see? I expected to see her blood sugar dropping into these low ranges. So something like below 70 milligrams per deciliter. If you're outside of the US, just divide that number by 18. I'm so sorry, I don't have these numbers memorized, but that'll give you the millimoles. So I expected her blood sugar to be dropping below 70, maybe into the 60s, into the 50s. We put on this CGM, and I was shocked because her blood sugar was not only spiking up to 300, but the lows where it was actually going down to was at 160. That is very high. That is well into the type 2 diabetic range. So just a general rule of thumb, we really don't want our blood sugar spiking over 140, because above 140 is inflammatory. Her blood sugar never got below 160, and it was going up to 300. So it looked like this roller coaster, up and down, these giant spikes and giant crashes. And so it was so eye-opening because, number one, she had advanced type 2 diabetes that her doctors missed. She also had hypoglycemic symptoms, but wasn't actually technically hypoglycemic, but felt like she was. And so the way that we had to approach her healing was a little bit different than someone who has actual hypoglycemia. And so it was unbelievable seeing this. It was very eye-opening. And she has since now reversed her type 2 diabetes. She's no longer pre-diabetic. She's lost 45 pounds. She's crushing it. She's doing amazing. But this CGM was a really helpful guide to see what was happening. We would not have known what was happening had she not put on that continuous glucose monitor. And just a little quick aside, that when you treat hypoglycemia with orange juice, with carbs, as the medical professionals will tell you to do, like, oh, your blood sugar is dropping, we'll have some sugar and bring it back up. That's what drives that type 2 diabetes, because you're you're driving insulin resistance in the background, and then your blood sugar just keeps creeping up over time. So that was just unbelievable to see. Some other stories about people is that what these CGMs help you to do is start to connect what your symptoms are with what your blood sugar is doing, so you can see, is it my blood sugar that's causing this? Like maybe you say, wow, I get a headache every afternoon. I get a headache every afternoon and I'm always taking ibuprofen. It's just like what I need to do. Or, I have a cup of coffee and that seems to help. Then you may put on a blood sugar monitor and be like, oh my gosh, my blood sugar is spiking so high from my lunch and it's crashing down, and that's when I get a headache. So if you know this information, then you can switch around what you're eating for lunch to have it be something that doesn't raise your blood sugar so much and that doesn't cause this crash, and then bye bye headache. So it's so powerful to know if your blood sugar is a driver of these symptoms. And it's also helpful to see what your blood sugar responses to things like food, exercises, stressors, what's happening during sleep, when you get sick, around your menstrual cycle. These are all things that impact our blood sugar. So if we can see what specific impact they're having, we can make the proper adjustments. It's taking the guesswork out of personalizing your blood sugar and your eating plan and your lifestyle plan and what your environment might be doing to your blood sugar. So these are all amazing things that we can see. And like I said, I love helping people to connect what their blood sugar is doing with what their symptoms are. So some of the things I did mention, a couple of things that might drive symptoms. So, like a lack of sleep, you might see that your blood sugar sits much higher in the day. You might see that your blood sugar is crashing more that day if you have a lack of sleep. You may see, if you are the week before your menstrual cycle, that week we typically have lower estrogen, and that drives more insulin resistance. So, what we may see the week before our cycle or post menopause or during perimenopause, ladies, you may see that your blood sugar line is just sitting higher, or you might be a person whose blood sugar keeps crashing much more. So these are things that help us know what's going on inside. But then again, with those symptoms, like I gave the example of the headache, we can also then start to experiment. We can also see, okay, what happens if I do this, and what will it give me? So if I have oatmeal for breakfast, how do I feel, and what is my blood sugar doing at the same time? Or what if I have eggs for breakfast? How do I feel? What is my blood sugar doing? And sometimes it's not always about changing the food right away, because that might be like, oh, this still doesn't feel good. Now my blood sugar is actually going too low. But you get the opportunity to personalize it for you. So I just had someone in my program who said she went a little bit too low carb. We're in the very first week of blood sugar mastery. And I always warn people, don't drop your carbs too quickly. So please take this advice as well. Don't lower your carbs too quickly because your body needs to get used to it. So inevitably, people lower their carbs too quickly when they sign up for my program, because they're like, oh, I'm doing blood sugar mastery. I need to not have carbs and sugar. And this needs to be a journey. And so when she drops her carbs too low, she doesn't feel good because her blood sugar is going too low, or because she doesn't have metabolic flexibility yet. So what people might see is that their blood sugar drops too low and then they start to not feel good. That's where they feel a little anxious. They feel a little edgy and a little irritable. And that's exactly what happened to her. And she's seeing this reflected on the CGM. So then she could say, okay, I don't want to go too low carb, but I don't want to go too high carb. So then she's able to add in, figure out what is the amount of carbs that keeps her more steady. Because when it comes to blood sugar, we want to have more controlled blood sugar levels that aren't spiking too high, that aren't dipping too low, that are just sort of, if you look at that CGM line, that are sort of these gentle waves, as opposed to like a giant roller coaster or a giant mountain and a valley, right? So we want these gentle movements, okay? So we shared the stories of people who use CGMs to improve their health. I mean, this is just a game changer for clients. And another thing that I want to bring in here, this is a lot about how blood sugar works, so you know what you're looking for and what benefits you can get out of this. But just the fact that different carbohydrates impact people very differently, or just food in general impacts people's blood sugar so differently. It's not like, oh, if you eat this steak, everyone's going to have a blood sugar of X. It doesn't work like that. So, because of all these factors going on in the inside, our gut microbiome impacts our blood sugar. Our light environment, what season of the year, if we're outside or inside, that impacts our blood sugar, how much sleep we've had, where we're at in our menstrual cycle, what our hormones are doing, how much muscle mass we have, how insulin sensitive we are. So we have so many different factors impacting our blood sugar that our response to food is going to be like a fingerprint. It's going to be different for everybody. So just coming back to the example of carbohydrates, I might eat a whole sweet potato and you might eat a whole sweet potato, and we will have vastly different blood sugar responses. It also matters what time of day you're eating the sweet potato. Like literally, I just keep thinking of more and more factors that are going to impact your blood sugar and so you can see that, okay, if I eat the sweet potato in the morning, it might have a different effect than in the evening. If I eat the sweet potato as part of a meal, it's going to have a different impact than if I just ate it by itself. If I had a sweet potato after a workout, it's going to have a different response than if I didn't work out at all that day. If I'm super stressed or if I'm sick, it's going to have a much different impact than if I'm not super stressed or sick. So the list goes on. You can see how it can be so confusing. You're like, how do I know what this sweet potato, what this food, what this activity is going to do to my blood sugar? And that's where CGMs come in. It takes the guesswork out. And then all of a sudden you can see, wow, I do so much better with carbs earlier in the day than at night. Like that's life-changing information to learn. If you also, this can happen too. Holy crap, I do so much better with fruit as opposed to like a starch, like a potato. This is my story. I do so much better with that than the starches. That's really good information for me to know. Right? So this is how we start to personalize whatever is going on with our blood sugar with these devices. So another thing where the CGM really, really shines over finger prick testing is, for example, when we're working out. Are you pricking your finger every second you're working out? No, you can just do it after the workout or maybe one time in between. You're not going to be continuously pricking your finger over and over, but you can get that entire graph, that real time information about what your blood sugar is doing when you're wearing a CGM. So a lot of people will say, I feel really dizzy, or I feel really anxious. I can't really work out very much. Or as I'm walking, sometimes I'm getting a crash. Well, if you're out on a walk, chances are you don't have your finger stick meter with you, but chances are you will have your phone with you, and boom, you can see exactly what's going on your CGM, because that's where, by the way, that's where this data goes. So when you have your CGM on, if you have a Freestyle Libre device that's the 14-day or the 2, you scan it with your phone. So you just open the app that you get on your phone, hold your phone camera up to the device, and your phone will vibrate and it scans the data. If you use the Freestyle Libre 3, which is the most current device, which is the one that Veri gives to their clients, it's naturally the information is just syncing with your phone. So you can just open up your phone and see exactly what your blood sugar is without doing anything, which is really, really cool. So that's going to give you that information, especially during times where it's inconvenient to be pricking your finger. Another time that it's so helpful to have CGMs is overnight. You are obviously sleeping and obviously not pricking your finger at night. And a lot of people will tell me they wake up in the middle of the night, they feel wide awake, their heart might be pounding, or maybe they're just up in the middle of the night and they're like, was this from my blood sugar? So what happens if people wake up in the middle of the night, their heart's pounding, they feel like they're having an anxiety attack, they need to eat, they'll often test their blood sugar. So they go to their meters, they finger prick, and their blood sugar is in the normal range. And they're like, well, it can't be my blood sugar, but let's rewind. What happened? What likely happened is that your blood sugar started dipping. If your body lacks the ability to burn stored body fat because of insulin resistance or leptin resistance, what happens is your adrenals have to come in and pump you with stress hormones to create new blood sugar, because you didn't have the ability to rely on those stored fuels because the hormone imbalance is blocking that. That's what causes your adrenals to pump you with with stress hormones, which converts into sugar, which tells your body to create new sugar, right? So now when you catch it, why did you wake up? Because you were pumped with stress hormones. You were pumped with literally epinephrine and norepinephrine, which is adrenaline. So now you have adrenaline coursing through your veins, you're wide awake, and you test your blood sugar. Well, it's already gone back to the normal range. Maybe you even see that it's high. And that's what's waking you up. But sometimes people are like, oh, I put on a CGM and I'm having like the alarm keeps going off. Like, what's happening? Well, the alarm keeps going off potentially because you're laying on it. But it can be hard to tell, did I wake up because my blood sugar was dropping? Was I in a deep sleep and that's why my blood sugar went a little bit low, but I was fine? Was it that I was laying on the monitor? So here's where I'm so excited to share this, because this is a brand new feature. Here's where Veri's app shines. Okay, so this little ring that's on my finger here, if you're watching the video, this is my Aura ring. This is a sleep tracker ring. And this gives me data overnight. And so Veri, their app, which by the way, you can get if you already get CGMs from your doctor, if you can get them another way, if you have continuous glucose monitors, if you are outside of the United States, this still applies to you. So you can get the Veri app. And it is so much better than the Freestyle Libre app, you guys. The Freestyle Libre app is like, I don't know, driving like a 1998 Ford. Like, it's just, that was my first car. So it's like driving that compared to like driving a Tesla from 2024. Okay, so the app is so cool. And one of the things that it does is it will overlay, I'm opening it up here so you guys can see. It will overlay your sleep data. If you have an Aura ring, it will overlay that data with your wake up data. So here, let's see, April 20th. Let's go to my sleep scores. So I'm opening this up in my phone. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see. So here's the overlay. So I'll explain this to you guys. So what you're seeing here is you're seeing my glucose curve, and then in the background, you're seeing all my sleep stages, and this is imported from the Aura ring. So if you have an Aura ring and you have the Veri app, this is what you'll be able to see. So what you can see here is that my glucose was really stable overnight, and I did have several wake ups, but those wake ups, I'm not going to associate those with blood sugar events. Okay. So now if we go to another night, I think there was another night where I did have a wake up or something else happening. So, okay. And on this day, I had a dip in my blood sugar. And so you can see this dip in my blood sugar, but it corresponds to deep sleep. So during that time, it shows that I was in deep sleep. I have a feeling that during this deep sleep, my blood sugar just went low, or I was laying on the monitor. I was in a deep sleep, right? So it kind of went low for a period of time. Either way, I'm not concerned because it didn't cause me to wake up. So that's super, super cool to be able to weed this out, because this is a huge question a lot of people have. And so if you do have an Aura ring and you do want to get the Veri app, or you can get their CGMs and the app as well, this is an amazing, amazing tool. So that's one of the coolest things I've seen. It also will show you what your average glucose was overnight, what your max glucose was overnight, your average heart rate, and then how much time you spent in each of these sleep stages. And that information is transferred from your Aura ring. You cannot get the sleep data with this Veri app if you don't have an Aura ring. So I just wanted to share that piece. But again, one step at a time. potential things on like a Christmas list or a birthday present. Highly recommend these things because it just gives you so much insight into all of this. You can also put your Aura Ring on airplane mode. And from what I've tested in terms of EMFs, I've used an EMF meter. It's not the best meter in the world, but I didn't get any reading, like any increase in EMFs holding it up to the Freestyle Libre device. And so if you're thinking about EMFs, I want you to be thinking about EMFs. And I am always thinking about EMFs and how, right now I'm getting, blasted with EMFs, but I'm going to go outside right after this to try to mitigate some of that. That is a very good thought. But what I've seen is that it's very minimal, especially the Aura Ring you can turn on airplane mode. And then the EMFs from the glucose monitor, very minimal, and my meter did not pick up anything. So I can't speak to if it even has anything going on. However, holding our phones, we're on our phones all the time. That's going to be way more than what this CGM is doing. So that's my feeling on it. The other thing is that think about all this benefit that I'm telling you that these devices have. I personally think that the benefits of wearing a CGM for 14 days, for a month, you do another, 2 weeks here and there, or for even a couple of months, even a year, I think that the benefits that you get from knowing how to heal and feed your body and what's spiking your blood sugar and what helps you feel better, I think that the benefits vastly outweigh the risks because we're being bombarded with EMFs everywhere anyway. And I just don't think that the CGM is adding that much to that. I think it is negligible. And so as I get more information, I will share that. But again, I've tested it with a meter and I've just seen like just so many incredible health transformations from this information. So you don't need to have a CGM on all the time every day. You start to learn what works for you. So this could be just like a 1 month thing that you do, and you will get, even if you do 1 meter for 2 weeks, you will get so much information that will drastically change your health like probably nothing else. I say that if you are going to invest in one single thing when it comes to your health, I absolutely put continuous glucose monitors at the number one spot in this chart because it's just so amazing how much information you get. So I want to keep talking about some things about these CGMs. So I have a list here just to keep myself on track. So we talked about some insights someone can gain from using a CGM. So how your body responds to specific foods, what happens when you're working out. So here's another thing that Veri shines when it comes to, we talked about the sleep. So we can see what's going on with sleep if you have the Aura Ring. We can also see what happens during exercise. And guess what? They have an exercise insight, like little feature in their app. So you can see when you're exercising if your blood sugar is spiking, how long it sort of takes you. So if you have a heart rate monitor, you can also link that with Veri, and you can see the impacts of your exercise on your blood glucose levels. You can see if this steady state cardio is keeping you in a fat burning zone. So you can get extra insights with exercise and heart rate using the Veri app. So that's specific to the Veri app. That doesn't happen with the general Freestyle Libre app at all. So they have exercise insights, they have the sleep insights, and then they also have meal insights. So you can get a meal score. They score your meal based on how your blood sugar responded, which I think is really cool because you're going to be getting so much data from this device. You're going to be like, is this good? Is this what I want to happen? And these technologies are not perfect, but they are very helpful and very quite accurate that I've seen in sharing, like, oh wow, this score was a 9 from this, this is great, this is a good meal for me. What if you get a 2 on a meal? Well, guess what? That takes the guesswork out. A 2 out of 10 is not good. So then you're like, okay, this doesn't work for me. So if you're like new to this and you don't know, you just see a line that's like this squiggly line when you put on a CGM, it's overwhelming. It's confusing. So this app is really, really supportive of helping you understand, okay, this was a good meal for me. So you don't have to know what I know. You could just be like, okay, 1 out of 10, where does my meal fall? So it has meal scoring, which is fantastic. And then there's the option to log your meals and insert, like, okay, I ate my lunch at 12 o'clock and I'm going to insert my meal. I'm going to share, let's say I had steak and some green beans and some potatoes. And so you can log that in your app so you can keep track of what meals did to your blood sugars, because you're not going to remember, trust me. So you might be like, wait, what did I have 2 days ago that caused this spike? Like, you might not even, you're not going to remember, trust me. So by keeping track of your food, that's also a really helpful way to remember what combinations of foods, what things did to your blood sugar at what time. But it does get a little tedious to track your meals. And that's where, again, Veri is coming in strong. They have AI meal tracking. So all you have to do is take a picture of your meal. You can even import a picture from like let's say you don't have time to do the whole thing. You just take a picture and then later on, you can find it in your library and it uploads to the app. And I just did this before. I took a picture of, I had steak, some roasted potatoes and cauliflower, and got it knew it was like roasted potatoes. I was like, wow, you can even see that they're roasted. I mean, unbelievable. So it's really cool that you can just take a little picture. It takes so much time out of it and you get so much more data stored in there, because I've used these devices for a while. I pretty much know potentially what my blood sugar is going to do. And then I get lazy and then I don't track anything. And then I'm like, oh, why did my blood sugar spike this day? I forget. Like, was it a workout? Was it the sauna? Was it a bath? Was it, ice cream? Was it like a meal that I ate at a restaurant? I don't know anymore. So taking a little bit of time to be a little bit more specific with what's going on is really helpful for just getting a full picture and getting more insights and remembering these insights. So I have a client now who's been using another app from another company, and she's like, oh my gosh, I am so sick of tracking my food. She's like, it's like a full-time job. So that's, again, where this feature comes in, because you can just import that picture. So I'm going to show you if you're watching. So it just says add meal, and there's a little picture of a camera right next to it. And then you have this steak dinner meal, and it shows you, this is the picture that I put in. And then it says steak, vegetables, and potatoes. And then it will do as well, it'll say glucose response pending. So if you take the picture live and it's like, okay, I'm about to eat, and I take the picture and I upload it, then it's going to wait and give you data and your meal score after 2 hours. So it's going to tell you, hey, here's what this meal did to your blood sugar, which is super cool. The other thing is that you can simply, if it didn't pick up everything, because this is AI, it's probably new and it's fallible, right? You can also add foods. So, or if like it's, a bowl of mixed stuff and it doesn't pick up everything in there, like it doesn't see that there's onions in there because they're clear or like at the bottom, you can also add foods to make it a little bit more accurate. And then I also want to show you another thing you can do. You can press this little plus sign to log different things. So you can log your breakfast, lunch, dinner, any snacks or drinks you have, like coffee. You can also log events. And this is what I really love about this app as well, is that you can log your sleep. So if you don't have the Aura Ring, you can put your sleep in. You can log your activity levels, or any activities that you did. So it has a list of all different types of exercises. So you can keep track of like, oh, running did this to my blood sugar, but walking did this, and weightlifting did this. So that's helpful information to know. Also, with the events, this is what I really love. So you can start to you can log if you have certain symptoms. So it says relaxed, tired, headache, stressed, hungry, acne, sick, period, medication, energized. So you can put how you're feeling. You can put different activities like fasting, meditation. Meditation will lower your blood sugar. So that's what you're going to see. So really cool. Light therapy, red light therapy also lowers your blood sugar. So that's really cool. So you can probably see that on your CGM. If you're walking, standing out in the sun, even though it has lots of red light, it can raise your blood sugar because heat is a stressor for our body. So you can see how your body responds to that. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Stress isn't bad. All blood sugar spikes are not bad. It's how we recover from them. If there's you can log alcohol, you can log caffeine, and then this is really helpful. You can log thermal events because just like the sun, saunas, hot showers, cold therapy, these things can impact your blood sugar levels. And so you can tag them. And then there's a section for other, which is great as well, because sometimes there's things that didn't show up, like got in an argument. That's something that might spike your blood sugar. So if you want to be really diligent in tracking, you can do as much or as little as you want. But I love that it gives you all these options, because one of the things that bothers me is that I'll have a day where I'm eating really well and my blood sugar is super steady. And then I go in the sauna and I get a giant blood sugar spike, which is natural, which is normal, which is fine. But then it looks like my blood sugar was crap for that piece of the day. It looks like, I had a snack, but I didn't. So to be able to label that it was the sauna is really helpful. So you can see, oh, actually, my blood sugar was actually even more stable the rest of the day after that spike because the sauna helped my blood sugar response. So these are just some things in the Veri app that are very exciting for me and why I really, really recommend this. And just as a reminder, if you already have a device, you can just get the app. You can get the app if you live outside of the country as well. I'm going to link everything in the show notes in the description below this video if you're watching on YouTube, so you can get this. And Veri is the most affordable CGM company out there, by the way, which is another thing. Like, these devices can be so expensive. There's some companies charging like $300 a month, and I don't have that kind of money to spend on CGMs, but Veri is much more affordable. And like I said, you're just getting so much bang for your buck here. You're getting so much good information. So that's a little bit more about the Veri device. Let me see if I covered everything that I wanted. They do also have a program inside the app that's like a step-by-step that shows you how to get the most out of your CGM. So again, you're going to put on this device and you're going to see all these numbers. You're going to be like, is this good? Like, what am I looking at here? And so their app also has a lot of informational, educational content on what you're looking for and how to make sense of this all. So you're not overwhelmed and you're extracting every drop of value out of this CGM experience. So when you get the CGM, you're going to start to see like, wow, this is not a good choice for my blood sugar, or wow, this like really spiked my blood sugar. Like, let's say I went in the sauna and it spiked my blood sugar, and then I had this really bad crash afterwards and I had to lay down and I felt really dizzy and I didn't feel well. That's helpful, because then okay, that was too much. That was just too much for your body. It's not that sauna is bad. It's that amount of sauna for you right now isn't a good choice. So you get to start making all these amazing changes, and then you can see the exact impact of them on your blood sugar in real time. So it's, again, taking out the guesswork. I did want to highlight some really surprising things that I've seen on my CGM that spiked my blood sugar. So one of the things was rushing to get ready. I saw an actual blood sugar spike. So when I was like rushing to get to work, this is when I still worked in an office before I did this full time. Another thing that spiked my blood sugar so much was a gluten-free, grain-free, paleo, glyphosate-free cereal from this company. I'm going to call out the company, Lovebird. I tried their cereal and it had all these things free. It was paleo friendly and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? That spiked my blood sugar so badly. It spiked it up to 173, and I was laying down because I was so tired. I was like, what's my blood sugar doing? And I see it's at 173. I'm like, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden, this little voice comes in my head saying, do we have ice cream? You should go buy chocolate. I'm like, what? Who is saying this? So all of a sudden, at the peak of the blood sugar spike, I started having cravings. And it was totally cravings. It wasn't like I needed, it was like, let's go have another bowl of the cereal. And I totally would have had I not had the CGM on. So, one of the things that I personally learned from using continuous glucose monitors is that when my blood sugar spikes at the peak of the spike, I start to get cravings. My sugar dragon's like, oh, we got sugar, we got a little taste of it, and then it wants more. And so what I did was I took my phone with me and I went on a power walk for 30 minutes. And I had to power walk for 30 minutes to get it back down to baseline. And if I wouldn't have had my CGM on, I definitely would have eaten another bowl of cereal, probably would have had more stuff, like more, chocolate or something else anything I could find in my cabinets. And I would have taken a nap because that's how I felt. So instead, it empowered me to go for a walk, use up the glucose in my system. And I felt great after that because I had just done a nice power walk for 30 minutes. So I didn't experience a crash afterwards. So just something like that is so powerful. Another thing I've learned is that sushi is a huge blood sugar spiker for me, unfortunately. So I've also tried to, have like a salad first, still spikes the crap out of my blood sugar. So because the rice plus the sugar in the rice, it's like really bad on blood sugar. It's so good. But just so you know, if you eat sushi, it's probably going to spike your blood sugar quite a bit. So, you can see how you do with going for a walk after something like that, or trying other different strategies to mitigate that, or even just quantity. I always want to bring that into mind. It's not like I can eat bread or I can't. Like, it's like I had these siete tortillas. This is another thing I learned. Those siete almond flour tortillas. If I have one of them, I just have a nice little hill in my blood sugar. If I have two of them, I have a big blood sugar spike. So now I just have one at meals. Like, hello, easy fix, but great information to know. Sometimes the quantity is what really makes the difference. Sometimes timing really makes the difference. I started talking about this earlier. So I one time had the same meal for breakfast as I did for dinner, and I ate a late dinner. It was after dark, which I typically don't do and I do not recommend. And my blood sugar stayed elevated it went so much higher and stayed elevated for so long. And that's indicating that there's more insulin resistance at night because we're not designed to eat at night. And so it's really, really cool to see. And now, because of what I've seen on the CGM, I'm much more likely to be like, okay, I'm not going to have any carbs at night, or I'm definitely like, if it's too late to eat, I might skip dinner instead of having dinner because I know how bad of a response to my blood sugar it is. And another thing it just helps with is accountability. A lot of people, like, we just have that tendency to be like, oh, I'm just going to have a little bite of this. Like, oh, it's just a little bit. It doesn't really matter. But when you are doing so well on your CGM and you have a little couple of bites of, a little couple of bites of popcorn or some whatever it is, and you see that response on your CGM, it really makes you be like, man, okay, I'm not going to have it. Or if you're having a really good blood sugar day, you're more inclined to make choices that are going to be supportive of your health because you want to keep seeing these good results on your CGM. So it's super, super helpful for accountability as well. So how do we get these CGMs? In the US, you do need a doctor's prescription to get a continuous glucose monitor, or you can use a company like Veri, who has a team of doctors that get you the CGM. And so you can get the CGM if you can get it from your doctor. Like I said, you can consider getting the Veri app because it comes with so many more benefits than just the Freestyle Libre app. Or you can go through Veri and get the app, and they'll send you the device, and they're going to send you a Freestyle Libre 3, which is the most updated Freestyle Libre. There's only one other company that I know of that makes CGMs. So there's Freestyle Libre, and then there's also Dexcom. Dexcom is another great brand, but I don't believe that the Dexcom works with the Veri app. So if you do get a prescription from your doctor, they're more likely to give you the Freestyle Libre anyway. So if you want to ask specifically for the Freestyle Libre 3, so then it can be compatible with the Veri app, that would be one of the ways that I would go. So and then, yeah, like I said, if you're outside of the country, you can usually get continuous glucose monitors over the counter. So if you live in Canada, you can get them at Costco. If you live in Europe, you can get them at the drugstore, like at the pharmacy. So it's amazing, really, really easy to do. So let's see, just looking at the rest of my questions, seeing if there's anything else I wanted to share. Okay, any final tips or advice I would give someone considering a CGM? Yes, I would say make sure you take some time to log what you're doing so you can remember what it is that made your blood sugar move in the way it did, and get really curious about your symptoms, because sometimes you don't need to have blood sugar going low to actually feel signs of low blood sugar. It doesn't mean it's not your metabolic health. It doesn't mean it's not your blood sugar. It's probably more of potentially some, let's say, adrenal issues, mineral issues, but it could be related to your blood sugar. So a lot of people will put on a CGM and say, oh, I have hypoglycemia, and their blood sugar is actually not going into a low range. And they think, well, oh, okay, I guess it's not hypoglycemia, but it still is some sort of metabolic dysfunction, just like the person who I talked about at the beginning. So that's something I specialize in helping people with. So if you find that to be the issue, I would love to work with you. So please just reach out to me, Instagram, email, through my website, through comment on YouTube. I'm reachable. But if you end up struggling with, if you're like, I can't get my blood sugar down, like I can't get it to stop dropping, that's where I would love to help you. So many people will be able to put on these CGMs. And honestly, I'm going to tell you that recommending CGMs is not good for my business, because then fewer people work with me. But that's how passionate I am. I don't care. I want people to be well. I want you guys to get well in the quickest, easiest, least expensive way possible. And getting a CGM can help you know exactly what your body needs. So then you don't need to necessarily work with someone. If you still want to optimize, and if you're stuck, if you can't do it, that's where I'm here to help you, or other practitioners. You don't have to work with me if you don't feel like I'm the one who can help you. But I want you to get the help you need. But I also want you to learn about your body. It's time to stop having all these general recommendations. Like everyone's saying, like, a fruit's good, a fruit's not good, fruit won't make you fat, fruit won't raise your blood sugar. Yes, it will. What about what happens with you? Like, that's what you need to know. You need to know what's going on with you. And that is how you can so easily tell what advice you should take or not take with what you're seeing out there, let's say on Instagram. So you're like, oh God, this person's saying to do this. Well, why don't you put on a CGM and see if it works for you? That's how you can see if it's good advice for you or if it's not good advice for you, right? Or if it's what your body needs or if it's not what your body needs. So this is where the CGM gives you this sovereignty. It gives you this autonomy to make the best decisions for you. And that's what I want you to do. I don't want you to listen to anything I say. I want you to try it for yourself if it feels like it resonates, and see how it feels in your body. Because I'm not here to tell anybody, like, I don't know your body better than you know it, but I want you to know your body even better than you know it now. And that's where these continuous glucose monitors can come in and really, really help. So that being said, I'm so thankful to Veri, like I said, for sponsoring this episode. My code is Dani20. So that's DANI and the numbers 20. And so I will Again, link all these things in the show notes. And I am so thankful to you for being here, for listening, for making it all the way through this episode. It was really fun to talk about my favorite device ever in health world, which are continuous glucose monitors. So if you try one, if you love it, whatever you learn, I want to hear your insights. I'm super eager to hear how these things help you. And I just want to hear your transformation. So please don't be shy. Share with me if do it on Instagram. Make sure you share like pictures of your meals, you wearing the device. I'd love to see this. One quick tip. Get Veri will send you, they'll send it to you, but CGM covers. These are really helpful because it's so easy to knock these devices off your arm. It's not so easy, but it's pretty easy to knock these off your arm. But these CGM covers are like almost like Band-Aids, and they're circular and they go over the device. You definitely want to put that on. All right. So that's my last tip. I'll leave you with that. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.